What's up, War Room? Welcome back. Joe and Connor, fresh off an accidental live stream, which we pulled down and uploaded the way we normally did for our pod. So,
Had no idea we were live for
had no idea we were
7
live.
minutes.
Fortunately, this is a PG, maybe PG.
Yeah, that's a good
podcast. We're fine.
Nothing changes at all, literally.
But good teaching tape, as they say. We have one question we're going to spend most of this episode on that we talked about a little bit last week. We're going to do a little snake draft, effectively, of me and Connor going back and picking all-time Jets based on the best season that they've had. So I'm going to bring up the exact Discord name and I'll shout it out before the end of the episode. But thank you for this question because it's a great prompt for an entire episode that we've been mulling over for about a week here. We will do a little tips talk at the end because right before we started recording, he got fired. So I feel like we have to talk about that a little bit at the end, especially since we were comparing him to Aaron Glenn last week. But the question was sent in. I'll put the glasses on for it. JHM 51677. I get snappier name. Great question, though. All right. So I'm going to go first, and then I'm going to throw it to you. We can pick any Jet player we want in our entire history, best based on their best season, them at the peak of their powers as a New York Jet. Let's say we'll go 4 or 5 each and see where that lands. So I'm going to pick Curtis Martin. There's a certain type of person I want to build my organization around. Hall of Fame running back, great on and off the field, all-time Jet. I'm assuming you're going to probably take Namath because Namath at the peak of his powers was Namath, but I'm going to start with Curtis as the centerpiece face of the franchise. And that's probably my bias speaking of growing up watching him. But I just feel like if he's on the team, there's going to be the right culture on and off the field as a starting point.
Listen, it's hard to argue against. I think that we've officially reached the point with the organization that he's almost underrated. It's weird to say, but what Curtis did at that position, the volume that he carried and still was great into his 30s is remarkable. So, and you just the class of a human you want and as the face of your organization, and I think he kind of set the identity for a lot of the teams he played on. So I get back-to-back picks, right?
Yes, snake draft, you're right.
So this is easy for me. Namath is my first pick. I mean, he's the Super Bowl winning quarterback for the New York Jets, but more importantly, and I know that's weird for people to hear, more importantly, for a guy that brought the Jets their only Super Bowl and still their only Super Bowl, is that Namath in 1967 threw for over 4,000 yards. And number one, that's in 14 games, by the way. I cannot emphasize that enough. He, within that season, and averaging 8.2 yards per attempt, partially changed the way the game is played. And I know he's not alone in that, but Namath throwing for over 4,000 yards in 1967. I'm trying to think of a good comparison for it. To me, I think it would almost be would it be like a running back today?
Running for 2,400 yards.
I was going to say 2,500 yards.
Something like that.
I think that's what you're looking at. Or it would be like a pass rusher getting 30 sacks. Or somebody picking off 14 to 15, grabbing 14 to 15 interceptions. It's just that sheer amount of yards. And it's not like they stunk. He was 8-5-1 that year, by the way. That sheer amount of yards in that era is just so groundbreaking to me. But of course, obviously, Namath won the Jets a Super Bowl, an absolute legend, and everything that came with him, including the style and just the way he carried himself and everything along the lines of that. Number 3, the third pick in this, and my second pick is Darrelle Revis. I think Revis is the greatest player to put on a Jets uniform at his position. I understand if Namath is a more important Jet, and especially because he played quarterback and has the Super Bowl trophy. I understand Martin because of the longevity and the production. there's a lot of different guys. Anybody that was a part of the sack exchange, right? Revis at the height of his powers, like the best version of Darrelle Revis.
Field eraser.
I think Revis is the greatest man cover corner to ever live. And I know that's not a common thought. A lot of people will tell you Dion. There's all different kinds of options. What we watched Revis do in 2009 and 2010 completely altered defense. Like, it completely changed the game. But the thing is that's so beautiful about it, it's not the type of change where you go, now everybody's going to do that. Yeah. Because he's the only one that could ever. Darrelle Revis would line up across from Reggie Wayne and Calvin Johnson and Ocho Cinco and erase them. It's unheard of. It's insane to think about. And how Rex, to his credit, and this is something that we yell and scream about all the time, make your best players give you an advantageous situation to put the opposition in a bind. Rex saw that greatness in Revis, challenged him to do that, and then capitalized on it for the benefit of the team. And I think that's something that hopefully the Jets start to do with Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson and even Will McDonald to his standpoint, right? Like, take your best players at premium spots and have them give you advantages to win the football game. Darrelle Revis was the ultimate chess piece of that.
Revis, the performance against, I think it was Ocho Cinco and then Vincent Jackson, each with the interceptions in each of the playoff games, both of which were ridiculous interceptions. And in the following year, I think it was he held Reggie Wayne to 1 catch for 1 yard in a playoff win, doing it on the biggest stage. Like, the Jets won the game in part to him more than anybody else, even though I know they ran the hell out of the football in those games, just completely erasing those 3 guys and having turnovers. Ridiculous. So now
Reggie Wayne had over 1,300 yards and 111 catches that season.
1 catch, 1 yard. Ridiculous. With Peyton Manning as his quarterback. Pretty good. I'm doubling up here, and I'm building the New York Sack Exchange. I'm taking Gastineau and Klecko. And we're just going to be wrecking balls up front. 2 Hall of Famers. Klecko could move all over the formation. Gastineau had one of those ridiculous error-adjusted stats. He had 20-plus sacks at a time when no one was getting anywhere near that. Could have 30 sacks in today's NFL. So now I have an elite running game, ostensibly, and an elite defensive line. I've gotten 3 Hall of Famers to get me out of the gate, and I don't have to deal with the constant older Jet fan battle of who is better, of Klecko or Gastineau, because I have both of them on my team now. So those are going to be my picks. So they end up going 4th or 5th overall. Throwing it back to you now.
All right, so I got Namath as my first pick. It probably makes sense to go get his receiver in Don Maynard, right? I mean, and obviously I always kind of caveat things with that I lean towards the side of players that I got to watch. But Maynard is the Batman or the Robin to Namath's Batman in terms of everything I said about changing the era of the passing game. I mean, this is somebody that it's also kind of remarkable at the ages he did it when you really look at it. With Don Maynard, he is somebody that had over 1,000 yards in 1962, last year of the Titans, by the way, the New York Titans.
Yep. Shout out those jerseys.
In 65, as a 30-year-old, he made his first Pro Bowl and went over 1,200 yards. That 1967 season that I talked about with Namath going over 4,000 yards, Maynard had over 1,400 yards.
Didn't he also have a ridiculous AFC championship game going into the Super Bowl? I think he had like 157 yards or something.
I'll pull up the exact game log in a second. So as a 32-year-old over 1,400 yards, as a 33-year-old over almost 1,300 yards. What was kind of insane about Don Maynard too is that season in 68 as a 33-year-old where he had 1,300 yards, he averaged 23 yards a catch. He only had 57 catches. So he was just running over the top of the defense nonstop. And had almost 1,000 yards as a 34-year-old, made his first first team All-Pro team. He was second team a couple of years before that. But yeah, I mean, this is somebody that, obviously just was a part of that. How do you kind of change what's going on in the sport is how I would call it. I want to pull up the playoff game log. So yes, against Oakland, he had 6 catches for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Not bad to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So, but I mean, you can make the argument Don Maynard is just as big of a reason the Jets got to the Super Bowl. I mean, easily. You could easily argue that. So, yeah, Don Maynard, absolutely the pick there. So you loaded up on the pass rush. You took Klecko and Gastineau, right?
Yeah. Meat and potatoes draft for me. Running backs and D linemen so far.
This is so interesting.
You're all Hollywood with your corners and your quarterbacks.
I really did. This one is really interesting. I'm gonna go brick here.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna go brick here, and it's weird, right? Now, I think for the older fans listening, it would be like you would bring up Winston Hill, right? If you were looking at tackle, Winston Hill was a tackle for the Jets for a really long time. I believe about 14 years, from 63 to 76. He played tackle for the Jets. He was obviously a Pro Bowl tackle for the Super Bowl team. I just can't sit here and tell you enough about Winston Hill. Like, it would be a really interesting thing to listen to from a Jets historian.
We needed an older historic pod at some point to give you the Winston Hill episode.
Yeah, but that's a legendary career. But I have to go brick, solely because, Brick is the best I've seen at tackle for the Jets, and he gets a little bit of the longevity crown. It is weird because he did retire after age 32, and we see a lot of tackles play into their mid-30s, but Brick walked away, felt accomplished from the game, was a great Jet, never made an all-pro team, which is probably more of a not only an era thing, but maybe the voters didn't do right by him, because he was an incredible player and a huge catalyst for the back-to-back AFC championship teams. And the thing with Brick is, he, out of his 10-year career, he had an opportunity to suit up in 160 games in front of him. And he suited up in 160 games.
Yep. I believe he played every snap but one, and it was like a gimmick play at the end of the game in 2008 or something, which is insane for a left tackle.
Unbelievable to not only be that high caliber of a player at a position that they tell you, or the offensive line, it's like mini car crashes every play.
Yep.
He played every snap they ever needed Brick to play, and he did it at a high level, and goes back to kind of the Curtis Martin thing, where you wanted somebody to be, kind of the face, like the voice and the face of the team, and level-headed. And I throw in a little hot take on this podcast. I think we're going to talk about Olu Fashanu the same way we talk about DeBrickashaw Ferguson if he could stay healthy.
God, I hope so. That would be nice, wouldn't it, to have that for a decade? All right, I got two. One's going to be a curveball here. I'm going to start with Kevin Mawai, who I think from a pure talent standpoint,
I almost took him, so I get it. Yeah,
I love Mangold. I saw more of I saw plenty of Mawai. I just was a little older and appreciated Mangold more in the moment. But Mawai was a better player, and that's not a knock on Mangold. Mawai is just better.
He was,
and he paved the way for Curtis Martin. I got Curtis Martin, so now I have Mawai. I got Klecko. I got Gastineau. I mean, Mawai, that 2004 season, that's the one to watch. Watch the Week 1 game against the Bengals and him getting out in front on the toss to block for Curtis Martin. That was a microcosm of how athletic and dominant he was as a center. And the Jets were just blessed to have the transition of him to Mangold and just be awesome at that position for a long time. My second one, because this wasn't off limits, I'm going to take Bill Parcells. And I'm going to take Bill Parcells before I take Weeb Eubank, just because I was here for Parcells, and Eubank won a Super Bowl. It's a Hall of Famer. Parcells won multiple Super Bowls. It's a Hall of Famer. I think for me, not just the coach, but the GM element and changing the organization element, because Parcells effectively came in at the end of what would have been V1 of Badlands, of the Jets being an absolute joke from like the end of the 80s when they were like competitive, up to the Kotite year in 96 when they were really bottomed out at 1-15. It's kind of like where the Jets are right now. Like, after everything that happened and how they went all in, they didn't go 1-15, but they pretty damn near bottomed out last year. And Parcells came in, immediately flipped them to 9-7, immediately had them in the AFC Championship game, up 10-0 in the second half. If Testaverde doesn't get hurt, they're probably right back there the following year. They still go 8-8 with Ray Lucas at quarterback. And then the domino effect of the people he brought into the organization, the picks that were moved around for guys like Keyshawn, and even other moves that came after that, and losing Belichick, That's how you had the 4 first-round picks, and that's how you were good in 2001, 2002, 2004, and even parts of 2006 with Mangini and Tannenbaum. I could still credit back to Parcells, including Tannenbaum, who I was really here because of Parcells up through the Rex era. So the Jets, the main person I credit with the Jets being good, and they were good from 1997 to 2011, is Bill Parcells. So I will take him as the coach and sort of the broader architect, football czar in the building, to go with Mawai, Klecko, Gastineau, Curtis Martin.
I mean, no argument from me. That's a savvy pick by you, because what Parcells did for this organization. And you know, it's funny hearing you talk about the trickle effect and how long lasting it was from Parcells. If Aaron Glenn has any level of success, you can argue that it's still the same tree.
Yeah.
I mean, because not only their relationship and Parcells' coaching of Glenn and mentorship of Glenn, but they still talk all the time. And you could argue that Glenn might have been a little bit more comfortable walking in here, taking this job, partially because of the guidance of Parcells. So my next pick